So I want to make a quick video about this Johnson shift controller, remote shifter, whatever you want to call it. I've done a bunch of research on this and watched about every video that's out there available for this, and nothing really quite pinpointed what my particular issue was, really whatsoever. I mean, there's videos talking about the adjustment back at the motor, and how to do that, which is pretty straightforward and simple. You can find a bunch of ways to do that, plus taking apart this thing in general. But my issue's much further beyond any of that right now. So what I'm running into is I obviously, took this apart, and the reason being was the ignition was bad, and got it all buttoned back up, thought I was good to go, and I would shift into forward like full throttle, and then it would reach a point to where it wouldn't allow me to come back. And I know a lot of people have that issue too, and it's frustrating because I got the new gear, and it ended up happening to me because I did adjust the set screw in the back a little bit. It ended up happening to me once I got the new gear, which is this here, in the reverse form. So in other words, I would reverse it, and this arm wants to go almost all the way back here, at least for mine, in order to really be in the position in order to let it come back forward and not skip the gear and lock you into either forward or reverse. So what I wanted to show what my issue was, I learned the hard way. I put this together and took it apart 100 times, and I learned that my issue was solely in the tension here. So what was going on was, and I'll show you what I did to troubleshoot this, is I simply just bolted the shifter to this gear. That way I don't have any other factors like the button that you have to press in just to get it on, and the screw with the ball that helps kind of lock you into the position, forward, neutral, reverse. But anyways, so if you get this guy on here perfectly and you get it in the neutral position, and you go to shift, for me, shifting was fine. I could shift it forward and reverse and neutral, but I could not go past that. In other words, if you just want to go into forward, sure, but you want to go past that for throttle, that's when this button here slides into there, and it'll actuate this pull more than just the throw that you're at to shift. So in other words, I wasn't able to give it full throttle without it popping out of gear and sticking, and it would stick me forward, or it would stick me in reverse depending on where the adjustment was on the motor back there. But I couldn't get it to not have tension when I would shift both ways. So in other words, once I would shift forward, this little arm had so much tension, it didn't want to let me shift further unless I forced it. And when you force it, it'll actually, when this is tight, when I would shift forward, there would be so much tension that it would pull this arm back. And when this arm really wants to stay about right there, once you go full throttle, see how it stays? Well, it's only staying there because I loosened this set screw, and the rod is actually slipping through. So the same with reverse. If I want to go reverse and I want it to sit in, and I want the arm here to sit in the position that it likes to be in order to not get bound up, I literally have to loosen that set screw, and that rod has to come in And you can see this position here is where it wants to be in order to catch the gear, whether that top of that gear is shredded off or not. If it's in the right position when I get it there and there's no tension pulling it this way, it'll come back and grab that gear no problem. See, so right now I have full shifting because that arm is able to go where it wants to go without the tension of that cable pulling it. So once I tighten that tension of that cable, see, that cable just popped through because it's loose. But once I tighten that cable where it's supposed to be, about right there, that's when I get the binding issue. So see, because that arm wants to keep going. In forward, I can get away with it usually right now, just barely. It wants to go a little bit more, but if I kind of, yeah, see, it doesn't even, it's wanting to tear it. But if I loosen this, see, it wants to go just a little bit more, and it'll probably pull that rod through. But see, then it stays in that position. If that's tight, then this rod pulls this arm back, and it pops you out of the gear ratio that you want to stay in when you come back. See, right now that gear is coming back. It wants to go back into the middle of those teeth, and it simply will not do that unless this rod is loose. See how that rod just comes all the way, but see, it wants to come all the way back here. So I'm thinking that this is just either stretched out or worn out. I went through the videos of lubricating these cables. I blew air through them. I covered the cracks in the cables and blew fluid and WD and oil and stuff through there to try to, and it did work, especially on the throttle side. The throttle side is a lot smoother when I'm actually using a shifter. It's a lot smoother now after lubricating that cable, but this one I think is just toast. I mean, this is 1977, so I did order a new cable that's supposed to be here tomorrow. Alright, so back to this beautiful machine here. Got the new cable, ended up not even ordering the right one. Apparently this is cable right a few years after my shifter, but I was just like, screw it, I'll see if it matches up, and if not, just send it back and get the right one. But coincidentally enough, it does fit in mine perfect. I thought I was gonna have to do like a clevis adapter or something, but I literally put it together and it shifts exactly what I was hoping for. This cable is actually a lot better than the original OEM cable that comes with these. Nonetheless, my issue is now fixed. So if I go all the way forward, it releases tension. It does not come back on its own. Go back to neutral. It's nice and smooth and neutral. Go to reverse, and there it goes. It slides out of reverse and allows you to throttle up. And when you come back, catches the reverse just like it should. Right back into the exact gear, and you can tell it's working correctly because this arm does zero movement after you pass that point that it stops adjusting this shifter arm, letting you give it that full throttle. So I know 100% that this is going to work. I was kind of worried about this urethane nut I put on here on the clearance, but looking at it, it should be clear. But if not, I will find a shorter nut and shorten the bolt so it's got clearance, because the other type doesn't really protrude out at all. So but other than that, that's a minor little thing to overcome compared to getting this shifter to shift correctly without worrying about it binding up on me when I'm out on the river and stuff, because this is just totally buttery. Like, it, even the adjustment out of the box, it was super close. I had to screw that that adjustment screw on the motor in just a little bit, because this was still just barely trying to bind. But now, as you can see, I mean, I can move this all I want. It doesn't move, and when I return, boom, takes me right back to where I want it. So I'm super stoked on that. It's a $50 cable, next day shipping on Amazon. Like I said, for me it worked. I had to remove that rubber sleeve, or sorry, the plastic sleeve that was in there. That was pretty much crumbling anyway, and that barrel fit in there perfectly. And I guess that T means top. If not, I don't really care because it's working. But yeah, anyway, and this is all, keep in mind that I ripped the tip off of that reverse before I figured out my issue, and even the forward has a little rip up on it. But because I've got my cable so dialed in here, I'm pretty sure that that's not gonna be a problem for me, because I keep doing it, and it's just totally buttery. It don't matter if that thing's ripped off or not, it keeps catching that gear perfectly. So I'm just gonna button it up and keep my eye on it, and hopefully that won't be an issue in the future. I mean, it could be. I should put the right one in, but like I said, that I don't think that was ever my actual issue. I think it was just the fact that that cable kept binding up and pulling back on me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna button this thing back up, and I'm pretty sure I should be good to go on the shifter. I'm hoping that the throttle cable and everything is gonna match up correctly in there for me, but like I said, that's minor stuff. I can get it to button up, no problem. So, but yeah, I'm gonna take this handle back off, that way I can put the, you know, the cover and everything back where it's supposed to go. And I know that shifter, or that throttle cable setup is working well, so I'm not worried about that when I get that in there. So like I said, I hope this helps somebody out, because I hadn't seen anything close to this issue, and this definitely was my issue without a doubt. That being the cable was worn out, it was binding up or something. It had cracks in it, and it wasn't, you know, very lubricated well, because it was hard to get the lube through the cable because of the cracks in it and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm gonna button this all up, and hopefully this helps somebody. Thanks.